Let us for a few moments think of Sri Ramakrishna and pray for the well-being of the whole humanity. Shanti, 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Sthapakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Sthapakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah. Asato ma dadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. God Himself likes the aspirants to do practices. In order to give you more joy, in order to make you more close towards God, spiritual practice is required. And to do spiritual practice, God's grace is required. Without divine grace, even the idea of doing practice doesn't come into the mind. There are millions and millions of people all over the world. How many of them are really trying to discover the truth? How many of them are really doing sincere efforts to experience the bliss of God? So many temples are there, so many churches are there, so many activities are going on all over the world. But how many are seriously devoting their resources in actual spiritual practice? So, under this topic we were discussing, there are 3 stages how the divine grace is to be recognized. The first stage, divine grace necessary to become a spiritual aspirant. That means you are on the right track. It is in order to direct your attention towards spirituality, the incarnations come. Holy people come. Out of their infinite love, they make you understand the importance of spiritual practice. So coming in contact with such holy people, you feel inspired to undertake spiritual sadhana. Then you really open your eyes. Though even now you are opening your eyes, but these eyes are just looking at the blank. Real opening is opening towards your own self, the true self. If you are able to see, discover, experience the highest spiritual reality, then you are really seeing. So the next stage which we discussed, divine grace is needed for an expeditious progress during spiritual practice. All these points are pointing towards doing some self-effort. Purusha Prayatna we call. Of course, a question might be asked, can self-effort alone lead us to the goal? There are many people doing spiritual practices. Many people, while practicing, pass through lots of doubts. Many of them turn back from spiritual life and again drop themselves into the ditch of the world to enjoy the flavor of the world. In this connection, one of the famous Upanishads, Kathopanishad, it states very clearly, na yamatma pravatane labhyo na medhaya na bahunashrutena yamevaisha vrunate tena labhyaha tasyaisha atma virunate tanum tasyaisha atma virunate tanum swam. The true self, the Atman, cannot be known through mere studies, nor through the intellect, nor through much hearing. Then it can be known through this self alone. The self of that seeker reveals its true nature. There is another Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad. It states, na chakshusha grihyate na pivacha na nyaira devais tapasa karmana va jnana prasadena vishuddha sattvastatastu tam pashyate nishkalam dhyayamanaha. Brahman cannot be comprehended through these eyes, through this speech, nor through other senses, nor is it attained through austerity or karma. Then, what's the way? By doing austerity, etc., one becomes purified in mind through the favorableness of the intellect. One can see that indivisible self through meditation. In this verse of the Upanishad, there is a significant word, jnana prasada. Here, jnana meant the buddhi, the understanding or higher mind, which is at once the light of the Atman and the faculty that reveals the Atman. That understanding is in everyone. But then why are they not discovering the Atman? The reason is, even though that understanding is in everyone, it is directed towards the objects of the world. So it is at present revealing only these objects to us, and has besides been contaminated by their contact. If you handle the kerosene about 2-3 hours, your hands will smell of kerosene, even if you wash your hands thoroughly. So your mind, your senses, your everything get contaminated, polluted. The whole body smells of the world. Every pore of the body smelling the world. This contamination consists in its sensuality and restlessness. The removal of these is very important, and if the understanding is used to remove this contamination, that understanding is called Jnana Prasada. Both the verses of the Upanishads, which I just now stated, clearly demarcate the spheres of self-effort and divine grace. After an intense self-effort, as spiritual aspirant reaches a stage when his yearning for realization intensifies and divine grace dawns on him, and the reality reveals itself to him. Sri Ramakrishna says in the Gospel, divine grace descends upon the aspirant only after he has prayed to God with intense yearning for realization and practiced spiritual discipline. Sri Ramakrishna himself practiced continuously for 12 long years. In that process, his yearning towards the experience of God reached its maximum point. It reached its summit. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling that. He clarifies the relationship between self-effort and divine grace. He explained this to a devotee. Sri Ramakrishna had a vision. He saw a lake at Kamarpukkot, his birthplace. What did he see? He saw there a man was removing the green scum and then drinking the water. The water was clear as crystal. God revealed to Sri Ramakrishna that Satchidananda is covered by the scum of Maya. He who puts the green scum aside can drink the water. So, experiencing God is not possible unless one makes an effort for the same. On another occasion, Sri Ramakrishna gave an example of a sailor. He said, the wind of God's grace is incessantly blowing. But there are some lazy sailors on this sea of life. They don't take any advantage of it. But the active and the strong always keep the sails of their minds unfurled to catch the friendly breeze and thus reach their destination very soon. Keeping the sails unfurled That's very significant phrase. It signifies self-effort, which enables a spiritual aspirant to catch the breeze of ever-blowing divine grace. There was a great saint, his name was Swami Ramdas. I had good fortune of seeing him when I was a student of college. It so happened I could see very great saint who would constantly repeat Rama's name. He wandered all over India, always repeating Rama's name. And in all circumstances, it's a great story. You must read his life. He had seen Sri Ramchandra, so he was always blissful. No trace of unhappiness on his face. No trace. Always cheerful. Always smiling. He said, grace is like light. It always spreads its rays. Only we should open the doors and windows so that we may get that light. Thus, self-effort and divine grace are mutually complementary. Without divine grace, one cannot have the tenacity to put out strenuous self-effort. Alternatively, without self-effort, one cannot get divine grace for progress in spiritual adventure. Coming to the third stage, need for divine grace for final illumination. We have seen in the Kathopanishad that through the grace of the Atman, the ultimate illumination will come of its own accord. There is another Upanishad, its name is Shvetashvatara. There it says, Mahan Prabhuvai Purushaha Sattvastaisha Pravartakaha Sunirmala Mimam Prapti Mishano Jyotiravyayaha. The self is indeed a mighty Lord. He is the imperishable internal light that controls everything. He guides the intellect of all beings so as to enable them to gain the extremely pure state. In the same Upanishad, it states, Anoharaneyan Mahato Mahiyan Atma Guhayan Hitosya Jantoho Tamakratu Paschati Vidashoko Dhatuhu Prasadan Mahimanamisham. The self, which is subtler than the subtlest, greater than the greatest. It is concealed in the hearts of creatures. By the grace of the Creator, one becomes free from sorrows and realizes Him as the great Lord. Again the Upanishad says, Tapaprabhava deva prasadacha brahmaha shvetashvatorosya vidvan atyashamibhyaha paramam pavitram provacha samyagrishimi sangha justam. It narrates how the great sage Shvetashvatara attained the supreme state of Brahman by the power of self-control, concentration of mind, as well as by the grace of God. By analyzing the instructions contained in these Upanishads, we find that after a long and probably a tiresome and adventurous journey on the spiritual path, The revelation of the truth comes of its own accord by God's grace in the purified heart of the spiritual aspirant. Sri Ramakrishna tells in the Gospel, he tells very clearly, as long as there is any trace of ego, none can realize the supreme state. He explains it by an illustration. A householder has appointed somebody as in charge of the storeroom. There is a big program going on in the home. So it was necessary somebody should be in charge of the store. After some time, someone came there, wanted something, asked the master. The master said, go and contact the store's in charge. Master himself did not run to the storeroom, as long as the keeper is retained there. But once that store's in charge is sent out, if there is nobody else there, then the owner himself goes and takes charge. Sri Ramakrishna compares God to a policeman on night duty with a lantern. With the help of the lantern, the policeman sees everybody in the night. But if we want to see the policeman himself, we must earnestly pray to him to turn the lantern towards his own face. By such a prayer, he turns the light towards himself, and the aspirant gets the vision of the Lord. So it is clear that the ultimate illumination comes through divine grace, which will not be denied to any aspirant who yearns for it. There is no dearth of divine grace to achieve our goal. It is always available in abundance, and it is left to us to make ourselves deserving to receive it. In the words of Sri Ramakrishna, let us take one step forward towards the Lord, and the Lord, out of pure love and compassion for us, comes towards us 10 steps. What is therefore necessary is to march ahead with all sincerity of purpose and unflinching love to Him, and to practice spiritual disciplines for the purification of the heart in order to realize the goal supreme. Be conscious you are doing spiritual practices. That's important. If you are not conscious of what spiritual practice you are doing, you slip from the goal. Instead of purifying your heart becomes more and more impure. You become more and more agitated, more and more unpleasant, more and more restless. That should not be the effect of spiritual practice. It should be the other way. Day by day, you must rise up, not slipping down, going upwards. It is possible only if you are conscious of what you are doing, not wasting your time on useless things, using the precious time for your spiritual sadhana. As Sri Ramakrishna tells, don't become egoistic. in the name of spirituality. You must become egoless. That means you must become humble, more humble, more humble, most humble. When you reach the stage of most humbleness, you will see the beauty of God's vision. There are many, many paths. To understand, to experience the love of God, bhakti is the best, I should say, the spiritual practice. It is greater than mukti. Bhakti is greater than mukti. The true bhakta, the true aspirant, doesn't desire for liberation. He desires to enjoy the divine eternally. He wants to taste the sugar all the time. The intense moment moves on eternally. This enjoyment is definitely superior to release from the cycle of births and deaths. Bhakti is greater than mukti. The Bhagavad Puran, one of the 18 Puranas, and Holy Mother say bhakti as the fifth purushartha. There are 4 purusharthas commonly known. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. The 5th one is bhakti. What is dharma? Righteous path. Artha means for satisfaction of enjoyments. You want to earn something to enjoy, to satisfy your desires. The 3rd one is kama, that is recognition of a place for legitimate pleasures. Legitimate pleasures. And moksha, that is the 4th one, release. The eternal intense present of bhakti moves on eternally, not caring for the cessation of births, but intensely intent on enjoying the Lord and serving Him in humanity, seeing God in all beings, not simply theorizing. You must practice it in life. Practice it in life. Bhakti can give you the maximum bliss. There's a famous prayer of Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, a very great devotee of Lord Krishna. She underwent terrible hardships, terrible, from the young age unto the last, suffering and suffering and suffering. But in spite of so much of suffering, she maintained her cheerfulness on account of Lord Krishna's grace all the time. She could just ignore any suffering. Love had that tremendous power, love of God. So when Lord Krishna came and stood before her, Kunti was overwhelmed with joy to see the Supreme God on her front, showering upon her immense love and kindness. She prayed to Lord Krishna, O Lord, There is no joy equal to this. I am prepared to undergo any kind of suffering in all my future births. I am not bothered about sufferings. I want you, as long as you remain with me, as long as I could see you, I am not afraid of anything in this world. That is supreme bhakti, supreme devotion. We should try to rise our devotion to that level. Rising up is important. Rising up. Page 539. Goswami said, what about the image of Radha Krishna? Master said, Vijay Goswami prostrated himself there too. Vijay also follows all the conventions of religious life. Goswami, how he can now be accepted in Vaishnava society? Master said, people's opinions don't count for much with him. Goswami, I don't mean that. By accepting him, Vaishnava society will honor itself. Master said, he respects me very much, but it is difficult to reach him. One day he is called to Dhaka, the next day to some other place. He is always busy. His presence has created great trouble in the Sadharan Brahma Samaj. Goswami, why so, sir? Master, the Brahmos tell him, you mix with people who worship God with form, you are an idolater. Vijay is liberal and straightforward. Unless a man is guileless, he doesn't receive the grace of God. Sri Ramakrishna talked to the Mukherjee brothers. Mahendra, the elder, had his own business. Priyanath, the younger, had been an engineer. After making some provision for himself, he had given up his job. Mahendra was 35 or 36 years old. The brothers had homes both in the country and in Calcutta. Master said smilingly, don't sit idle simply because your spiritual consciousness has been awakened a little. Go forward. Beyond the forest of sandalwood, there are other and more valuable things, silver mines, gold mines, and so on. Priya said smilingly, sir, our legs are in chains. We can't go forward. Master, what if the legs are chained? The important thing is the mind. Bondage is of the mind, and freedom also is of the mind. Listen, there were two friends. One went into a house of prostitution, and the other to hear a recital of the Bhagavat. What a shame, thought the first. My friend is hearing spiritual discourse, but just see what I have slipped down to. The second friend said to himself, shame on me. My friend is having a good time, but how stupid I am. After death, the soul of the first was taken to Vaikuntha by the messenger of Vishnu, while that of the second was taken to the netherworld of Yama. Priya said, but the mind is not under my control. Master said, how is that? There is such a thing as Abhyasa Yoga, yoga through practice. Keep up the practice and you will find that your mind will follow in whatever direction you lead it. The mind is like a white cloth, just returned from the laundry. It will be red if you dip it red dye, and blue if you dip it in blue. It will have the whatever color you dip it in. to Goswami, "Have you anything to ask?" Goswami said, "No, sir. I am satisfied that I have seen you and I have been listening to your words." We shall stop here. Any questions, comments? Jnana prasada. Manah prasada is required now. Manah prasada, grace of the mind, which is absent. So we are suffering. All these practices are meant only to get manah prasada, grace of the mind. What is the grace of the mind? Inclination towards doing spiritual practice. What is spiritual practice? Doing meditation regularly, feeling more and more joyful, repeating Lord's name lovingly, doing His service with utmost attention. These are the ways. So, that means, in one of the classes I had told earlier, the power of the will is important. Willpower. Willpower. It is very weak in most of us. For small things, we just collapse. We just collapse. We forget our personality. We behave like beasts. Beasts. Animals. So, spiritual struggle means you have to fight all these negative forces. Then only peace, God's vision, everything will come. Even recognizing grace is possible only when you attain certain purity level. Without purity level, you will not be able to understand anything. On the other hand, you become more and more confused, end up in frustration. That's the point. So, one has to be very careful, strong, never yielding to lower propensities. Don't act upon the impulses. Even though we may have defects, let us not waste our time on thinking about defects. Let us use the precious time in thinking about God, in engaging oneself in God's service, whatever way we are able to do. So, what else can be said? The great Christmas is gone. Lord Christ, the compassion, embodiment of compassion, embodiment of love. So, let us follow their teachings in letter and spirit. Everything will be okay. Any question? And we shall stop. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean, and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. Our name streamed down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name that bought for weary souls. Where is thou thy name, so Lord? In each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass, be patient and forbearing like a tree, Take honor to thyself, give honor to all, chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for Thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is Thy servant, O sweet one. In Thy mercy consider him as dust beneath Thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when an instant's separation from Thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without Thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at Thy feet let me be in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of Thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of Thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O Thou who stillest the hearts of Thy devotees, do with me what Thou wilt, for Thou art my heart's beloved, Thou and Thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere, may all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy, may the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear, may the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works be satisfied, for He being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.